everybody, welcome to Shivers. Just got back from seeing the new movie Wolfman that comes out this upcoming Friday, January 17th. Want to extend my gratitude first and foremost for the Shivers group being able to be one of the few people to see this movie early. This is really our first early movie review, so strap in. I promise it will be spoiler free, so you can still see the movie to your pleasure. This Wolfman movie is a remake, sort of an updated version from the original that came out in 1941. So there are a lot of allusions to the original Universal monster version of it. However, it is much more a drama than it is a scary movie. So we really only follow three characters. We have Charlotte, Blake, and Ginger. Ginger is their daughter. Charlotte and Blake are married, this sort of normal couple from New York City, living a very city living life. And they're not necessarily happy in their marriage. They're both writers. Charlotte's a bit more successful, really the breadwinner. But the family drama that we follow mostly is the comfortability around being parents. And Blake is now this stay-at-home father because he's in between writing jobs, whereas Charlotte is really working this big journalist gig and is very successful. So she's not the warm and fuzzy mother that we're used to, especially in types of movies like this. So the roles are a bit reversed. It is coming to terms with the fact that Blake has had an abusive father and he's doing everything he can to not be that to his little girl, whereas the mother, Charlotte, is not abusive, but she's a little bit avoidant and distant. So there's a very, very, very big emphasis on family throughout this whole movie, more so than any of the werewolfness itself. But Blake gets this letter in the mail that his father has passed away. And so they have to now go from New York City to Oregon to clear out the farmhouse. And Blake sort of prefaces it by saying, like, Charlotte, I know you're this city living person, but maybe it'll do some good to go to this remote farm in Oregon. And even though it is kind of in the middle of nowhere, it is really beautiful. So they all get in a U-Haul, they go across the country, and they go to his dad's house to hopefully clean out the house. Before they even get there, they're sidetracked by werewolves, and Blake gets scratched. So the entire remainder of the movie is focusing on the werewolf transition from Blake's perspective and also from Charlotte and Ginger's perspective. So not only is it the fear of what you can become, it's also the fear of watching your family members really deteriorate right in front of your eyes. So there is still this level of connectedness between Ginger, the little girl, and the dad, Blake, and that really carries out throughout the whole thing as well. One of the things that she does throughout the entire movie is places her hand on his forehead, and he's like, you can read my mind, tell me what I'm thinking. And she's like, you love your daughter. And he's like, yep, you got it. You're this magical mind reader. So all the while that he's going through this transition of becoming a werewolf, and that's not a spoiler because that's what the entire movie is about. The entire time where he's going through this transition, he can't speak. He's sort of in this almost mushroom-like, acid-like state where the walls are moving, their faces are moving, and he's speaking, but we then go back to Charlotte and Ginger's perspective, and he's not. Like, his mouth is moving, but there's no noise coming out. So Ginger places her hand on his forehead, and she's like, I love my daughter. And then he just nods his head. So not only, again, is it this allude to the deterioration of family members, especially in a hospice-like sake, but it's also the fear of not being able to communicate with them anymore. So there are a lot of assumptions that are made on the family's part. There are a lot of very, very stupid moves by the child. I think that is one of the reasons that would cause me to lean more towards not loving this movie, is just because of the emphasis on Ginger having authority to make decisions and be, frankly, a really stupid kid. So really, in general, this is a very good movie. There's a lot of great juxtapositions between the traditional werewolf movie of just this cute little monster movie and now this very psychological drama-filled horror movie about a family that is on the brink of collapse. Not only that, it is also made by Lee Winnell, who created all of the Saw movies, at least Saw 1, not all of them. But there is this one part where Blake has to get free from this trap. So he cuts his foot off and starts crawling towards the door, which is a great, great allude and suggestion towards Saw 1. So I love that. I love the subtle things that are thrown in there. There's 3 different houses that they bounce through. So it's this 3 Little Piggies type of style for werewolf telling, which I loved as well. One of the times they push Blake against the wall and there's a mirror next to him and we don't see him in the mirror. So I know that that's more of a vampire story, but it is still this homage to the universal monsters and how maybe they're a little bit more connected than we expect. The filmography of it is very, very good. The color scheme is very good. Every time that there's something going on with Blake, the camera is a little bit shaky. It's wonderful to see it from his perspective and the humanity that is still left behind in him as well. And then the very full circle moment of the ending compared to the beginning of the movie as well. So I know that's a relatively vague review, but again, I want to keep it spoiler free. So in terms of the actual Shivers scale, for the story itself, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would give it a 3. Again, this is something that has been done before. I prefer the film style of this movie to the actual story of this movie. For originality, I'd give it about a 3.5. I think I would rate it higher if there weren't already 1,000 werewolf movies that are out there. But I would give it points in general for being so fixated on the family aspect of it all and the psychology behind it. So I do think that's what makes it very original. And again, seeing it from his perspective too. For the acting, I would give it a 5 out of 5. Again, we're really only following 3 actors, so they have to do their job right. I don't love the casting. I think the woman who plays Charlotte looks a little too young to be a mother, but that's just my own opinion. That does not negate her actual qualities of an actress. It's just her being in a parent role. I would have preferred for her to be like an older sister. So, but Blake is a very good actor. He's a very good character. And then Ginger she acted a little bit younger than what she seemed, but you know, it's a kid going through distress. So I think they all did a really good job. So I would give it a 5 out of 5. For the production, I would give it a 4 out of 5. This is a Blumhouse movie. We do go through New York. We do see some of the bigger settings. But as I mentioned, for the most part, we're really only in 3 houses. So there's not much to be built. There's not much to see. So I'd give it a 4. And then for scares, I would give it a 3.5-ish out of 5. There are a couple of really gory moments that make it hard to continue looking at the screen, but I think that's what this movie really needs to propel the horror element of it. So the gore is very much appreciated, as well as some of the jump scares, and they're not these stereotypical jump scares like they're set up to be. You know, at one point, Charlotte is fixing the car and she puts the hood up and she pulls it down, and it's very expected that there's going to be something behind there, and then there's not. So from that perspective, it's really nice to have a refreshing take on not so stereotypical jump scares, but the jump scares are there. So it is relatively scary. This is a movie that I would suggest for somebody who wants to watch horror movies for the first time, and is okay and comfortable with some of the gore. So all in all, we get a 3.8 out of 5. Not a bad way to start the year at all. Again, I would recommend this movie. I enjoyed it more than I expected, but it is very heavy on the drama. So let me know what you think when you go see it. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. It's super cool to be able to see this movie early, and that can't be possible without you guys. So thank you all, and I will see you soon.